to
And
it.
speaking of NRL, we'll kick off.
Yeah, something called State of Origin.
We should start with Game 2 and State of Origin.
So, big Queensland fan here, am I right? What was the score in that, Sean, if you wouldn't mind?
26-0.
Yep.
Final score. I think we probably should get stuck in and lead into the match.
The night before.
Well, 2 nights before, Reece Walsh gets pulled out injured. Gets injured, I think, calf injury at training. So then they have to find a replacement, and they get and Ronaldo. Mulitalo. And then, of course, I think it was about 4 or 4:30 on Saturday, the whole started blowing up with the headlines of Origin eligibility for him and how that would go for Queensland. So, as we know, he then kind of ruled himself out. The QRL also ruled, came in and said, hey, let's just not risk it if they have to overturn the game.
That was Sunday morning.
Sunday morning, and the poor fella misses out. So, going into Game 2, I figured as much Queensland are probably getting fucked in this. You got all that hoopla and they've got no real attacking power. It's like, we're lambs of slaughter at this point. And it's seemed to be the case for, say, 80% of that game as well. They were handily beaten.
Yes.
But let's talk about this eligibility. What your thoughts, Peps?
Well, look, there's two sides to the argument, isn't it? A, that they brought in these rules, I think it was 2012, and they're pretty concrete, okay? There's 3 things that make you eligible. You need to be born in the state, you need to reside in the state before your 13th birthday, or your father needs to have played Origin. It's a big triple donut there for Ronaldo. He grew up in Auckland, and he officially moved to Queensland when he was 13, 11 months. So he's missed the cutoff by about 11 months. There was a bit of news that would suggest that he was sort of back and forth between Auckland and Queensland.
I've heard everything from it was 13 and 8, 13 11, 13 and 10. Then there was also he came over earlier when he was 12 with his mum. His whole family was kind of transitioning. So I guess it's what day do you pick to actually put down? But I want to go back to your point on the concrete rules. On behalf of yourself here, answer those 3 rules for me.
No, this is a ridiculous argument because the ACT...
Well, you said they were concrete. Answer them.
But they are. But it's concrete because what you're saying is that I've grown up in the ACT and it's idiotic because Josh Dugan grew up in the ACT. Bradley Clyde grew up in the ACT. It's Canberra region, which comes under New South Wales Rugby League. They're in the zones.
Yes, put that contract in front of a 15-year-old and tell him it's a legally binding contract to fill that out. He's going to go, no, and then fill the rest of it out with his ACT. I've played here, I've played here, I've played here, and played here.
Absolutely. Look at apples and oranges.
Well, look at Ronaldo's contract, 000, played all my junior football in Queensland. I was just like, bro, what are you going to do?
No, he hadn't resided there before his 13th birthday. It's concrete, mate.
But we're talking
because they brought this shit in because Queensland used to cheat a lot more than New South Wales at this with the likes of Greg Inglis who lived in Bowraville and Kempsey until he was 16.
You got to remember Greg Inglis
Israel Folau who lived in Minto till he was 16. That's why they brought this in, mate.
But also those 2 blokes would never have played State of Origin because they were buried behind guys in front of them in New South Wales. New South Wales told them they didn't want them. You had Gaznia, you had Matt Cooper, you had Gidley, you had Tamo, all in front of them. Tahu, all in front of them. So, they were given an opportunity and they had eligibility under the rules at the time. So,
and that does beg the question as well, that because they wanted to play for Queensland. Was that because they got rejected by New South Wales or
I'd say there was no clear path for them ever to play for New South Wales.
Anyway,
that's why
it goes back to the classic YouTube video. That's in Queensland. Fucking half of the South Pacific's in Queensland. But that's why they brought these rules in. And I do feel sorry for the kid. Like for this to happen 24 hours out from him meant to be making his Origin debut, it's an absolute shit show. But it's only the Queensland Rugby League they've got themselves to blame here.
No, they don't, because it's the NRL. Because the Queensland Rugby League is going to do the best for itself, and New South Wales Rugby League is going to do the best for itself. Who holds them accountable? That's the NRL. That's ARL. They should be going in and double checking this shit. Because
why should the ARL do it? They've got his forms there, and they let him play 18s and 20s.
It's conflict of interest. Queensland are going to do what's best in their interest,
and just hope no one finds out.
Exactly, and the NRL let them do this.
Well, that's what fucked them. That's what's fucked them.
Yeah, and I'm saying the NRL is in fault of this because they have to get.
I think your problem is, I hate to put words in your mouth, you don't like the rules.
I don't like the management of the rules as well. Like, I think they're,
and I'll agree with you.
I don't care if it's Queensland or New South Wales. I think NRL should have 6 years ago when he signed the first contract when he was 15.
Yep.
4 years ago when he was 17.
Yep.
When he fucking signed for Cronulla 2 years ago.
Fully agree with
all. Check that.
Fully
when he was picked on Monday, check it. Like when he played under 18s, under 20s, check it then.
Yeah, that's when, and I agree with you 100%.
To me, it sounds like some bean counters already checked it and confirmed it, which was part of already in the eligibility flowchart. It says, hey, if you're played under 18s and under 20s, you've confirmed. Well, I think the NRL's fucked itself here. They're going to have to relent.
You've got that there in the yellow, don't you, on the State of Origin eligibility chart. If you wouldn't mind reading that out for us, Mugs, in the yellow.
So it is important to note if you have played Origin under 18s, under 20s, or senior Origins, your state of eligibility is confirmed. These new rules are applicable from December 2012.
Yeah, so I think the NRL will have to relent because they've
got it there outside of their flow chart.
Yeah. But we're only talking about anywhere from 8 to 11 months. And it's this rule on the 13th birthday. Why it's 13, I don't know. You start high school when you're 12. Why is it not 14?
I know some people start when they're 13.
Yes.
Yeah, so the rationale behind 13 is that's the start
around
of
high school. That's
on average in both states it's 11 and 12.
Yes, but it's also the start of International Rugby League rules.
Exactly. So junior rugby league.
Small stroke there on the
sorry. But international rules. The eligibility for Australia is the eligibility for international football is where you're born, your ancestry, or your residence, and it's 5 years residence. So, of course, Ronaldo's eligible for Australia.
But again, that's different for different tiered nations. It's different for Samoa and Tonga than it is to... Yes, it is.
No, that's the International Rugby League's 5 criteria to play for it. So,
can you do it off the top of your head, the 5 criteria?
Yeah, I just told you. It's where you were born, the next 3 in relation to your grandparents or your parents, and there was another one, but it was all ancestry. And the last one was your last permanent residence, which is you have to spend 5 years, the last 60 months, 5 years there, and you have to spend over 200 days in that country.
So do you want to bring that in for New South Wales and Queensland? So anyone that's got ancestry in Queensland or New South Wales could play for it?
Maybe.
Well, doesn't make any sense.
My point is it's harder to play for your state than it is your country. Which seems dumb to me.
Well, not really, because
Australia should be the pinnacle of sport.
But this is the pinnacle of league. This is the pinnacle of league. That's why they're so stringent with these rules.
Yeah, but back to my point, why is the 13-year-old rule in relation to international football when then international is not the pinnacle of our sport? Why is it not the majority of your sport? Why is it not? Because add the lineages there.
Because they're trying to prop up these island nations like your Samoas and Tongas by having them in a second tier.
Well, we have 4+ blokes that play for Samoa playing State of Origin.
Yeah, and it's like...
But the bloke that wants to play for Australia can't. And I looked into this. I couldn't find anyone that was eligible for Australia that had played for Australia but not eligible for State of Origin.
Ever.
Well, it was really fucking hard. I really, really tried and I couldn't find anyone. So we're hopping on a 10 to months-ish kind of gap leeway.
But where do you need to have something there, and you need to have...
Yes. Yeah. It could be... for him, where did he play all his junior football? You look at his form that he's filled in.
All his junior football? No, all his junior football he played in New Zealand.
No, he didn't. It was all in Australia.
So he never touched the ball before he came to Australia.
He played 2 years, I think, in New Zealand, and he played the following 6 in Australia.
Through high school, yeah.
So his majority of his high school years, all in Queensland. That form he filled out where it says, no, the next 5 fields all say Queensland.
Yep.
Because he played all his football here. His majority of his football has been in this country.
I get where you're coming from. You need to have rules. This is my opinion. But feel horrible for the bloke.
I think there's too many loopholes in this, and I think the NRL, the way they've, and it's kind of hypocritical of us because when we talked about Tamalolo at the start of the year, we're like, oh, it's good. We don't want Kiwis playing State of Origin. I agree with that 100%. That's fine. But the more I looked into this, the more loopholes I found. Especially, we can talk about the women's State of Origins going on, and if your mother plays, it doesn't matter.
Again, that's completely different. The first women, there hasn't been a case. There might be a case, but the first female State of Origin was in 1999.
As the rules are currently written, it doesn't matter.
So it's written as your father, yes.
Yeah, yes.
But so it might become something in the future where your mum might have played State of Origin, but at the moment it's not something that need to write into the rules.
I know. I know. There's I'm saying.
Your mum played State of Origin. We've arrived there.
The one I also like. You got the Melbourne Storm down there. You've got a whole bunch of expats. Could be born in down there. Your dad could play 14 years, 15 years for the Storm, never make Origin because he's got some bloke like Cameron Smith in front of him. Your whole family, say, from New South Wales, you move back, you play all your high school in New South Wales, not eligible.
Yeah, clutching at straws here, I think.
There's a whole bunch of possibilities. I don't understand the 13 rule there and why it's so limited. And I'm just annoyed at the NRL at the way they have to manage this. The fact they don't even look at it, so that the QRL and the New South Rugby League could get away with whatever they want, essentially, if this is the case. No one's checking, dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
Well, that's something that we can agree with, is that the management and the implementation of this to be 24 hours out from the kid's biggest night of his life is bullshit.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going to have to move this on.
Oh,
because,
exactly.
Because otherwise we'll be here all night.
That is my final point. Like, it shits me every week that we got to talk about stupid shit about this bumhole league run by absolute fuckwits. I'm done.
Bumhole league's coming out.
Yeah. There's no code war. AFL 1. Like, this shit is just so dumb, and we do it every week.
Yep.
Like, when's the NFL start?
Get at us.
Oh, what a start to the Esky we have this week, ladies and gentlemen.
Get at us in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. I imagine it's, if you're a Queenslander, you should have played. If you're a New South Welshman,
I think
it's against
irrespective.
the rules.
Like, this is going to fuck all the kinds of young people that could possibly, have to deal with this shit. And they're now going to have to go back through and look at everyone's eligibility from the fact when they were fucking 13 to work out whether the guys that are currently coming up have fuck this up or not. Fuck you, NRL.
Oh, we are fired up and we are cooking on the Esky, ladies and
Justin, would
gentlemen.
you like to talk about the game?
Oh, gee, was there a game? Was there a game?
Eligibility
Gee
argument, wasn't it?
whiz.
So,
you
Sean,
take it away, Peps.
As Sean did allude to, New South Wales won 26 zip. That brings the series total to 76-6. I think they can lose the next game by 10 points and it'll still be the biggest winning margin ever. They haven't had a series sweep since 2000, I believe. So they're gunning for, New South Wales is gunning for their first sweep in 21 years. It was similar to game one in that the back five, the outside backs and the fullback for New South Wales just looked leaps and bounds ahead of Queensland. I'm talking about your Tommy Turbos. I'm talking about your Latrells. I'm talking about Teddy. The Fox busted over for 2 tries. It was actually the first 10 minutes, and much like the first game, you thought, this might be even, especially that first set where Queensland had kicked to New South Wales, and the first 3 tackles, they didn't make 8 metres. And then a massive run from Tarek Sims, and there was a bit of back and forth, and then once that first Addo Carr try went through off the Tedesco try assist, you started to get the feeling that the floodgates were about to open.
Yeah, well, after Latrell got that strip,
that's probably the turning point.
You could see like the X Factor players for New South Wales really brought them into the game. Like that was the difference. So you could see that was the turning point, and then they kind of ran away with it. I think there was probably and you might disagree with me on this, but I thought it was a 15-minute period where they had 4 attempts at scoring points, Queensland, where Ben Hunt, in the second half, where Ben Hunt was the first receiver, well, they actually looked like Queensland had more direction and looked more likely to score some points versus what they had been putting together. So I thought that was really interesting, especially watching Ben Hunt at halftime, kind of, and at the end of the game, kind of talking to the boys, being that leader. And I think we worked it out that Papali had the most, and then him and DCE had the same amount of caps in Origin. So I thought that was interesting that the guy that was 14 kind of took and was running the side around for that kind of period, and they had better direction. So, big shout outs to Ben Hunt for not even getting a look in game one to coming off the bench, late replacement, and doing a job.
I think it's because, and we said in the first game as well, that first 15, 20 minutes of any Origin game is going to be so adrenaline based. Like it's who's going to settle earlier. So you need your halfback to be that settler. Yeah. And and obviously Cleary's got his running mate. That Penrith, that Penrith Harvey.
Oh, clear. Lua.
So they've obviously handled that a bit better. They knew after about 20 minutes the team on paper is so much better. Yep. So it's about holding them, controlling that. And when there is momentum for Queensland, like you said in that period, in the second half, it's about level heads. It's about, we know we're better. Let's just ride the wave, see what we do here. And then on the other side, that's probably why Cherry Evans is copping a bit of flack. Like, the heat's on. He needs to be the one to sort of stick
Yeah,
his
I don't think
massive
he's-
neck out and really, you know,
They haven't
help
scored
him, but-
points, so that but
Exactly. So yeah, there is that, but then it goes from managing to now attacking. Whereas Cherry, you know, and Hunt, they managed really well, but going forward, you know, they obviously didn't do that well because they
I was going to say
finished with 0 on the
he didn't
scoreboard.
have a try assist, and that's a bit hard when they only scored one try. But I think he only had.
But how much was that the fault of Munster and DCE? Do you think when they had ample opportunities to score, and it took really good try saving efforts from Turbo on Coates and from To'o on Felt.
Yeah, well, I think-
even Yo when McCulloch tried to burrow through.
Yeah, I think Craig Fitzgibbon should get a lot of raps because I think
Defensively.
he was tasked with getting their defensive structures together, and they defended excellently. So you can see why Cronulla have been real hot about getting him across there. Yeah, like I think
The whole coaching staff for New South Wales done an excellent job. Like Freddie Fittler was
He's the face and does all the
and he
media,
was criticised a little bit when they lost last year, but now he's won 3 series and he's into some weird shit like the they do the yoga and the meditation and the barefoot shit, and I think a lot of that's just to try and make the boys think this isn't your club now. This is different.
Yeah.
I don't think that it serves much of a function outside of that. But now. Yeah, he's off to a stellar start in his coaching career.
I will say, Wayne Bennett is a different beast to Kevin Walters and Paul Green. So
sure.
there is a bit of that. And I reckon last year Freddie was out-coached by Wayne in his structures and using what he had there. But
you mentioned Paul Green. How much of the blame falls at his feet here regarding selections and coaching?
I think
could he have done anything with the cattle that he had?
I think he's probably was held back a little bit because a lot of the young and upcoming, strike power talent was out. And a lot of the guys, like take Welsh, for example, came in underdone. He'd only played the 2 Origins, nothing in between.
Yep.
And he was dead after 10 minutes. So I think they were a little bit underdone, Queensland, leading up to us. So they hadn't hit this like in their stride and in form. Whereas, New South Wales, they got a whole bunch of Penrith guys, and Penrith are kind of out there and leading the league at the moment. So and we played every game this year. So
and an unsung hero was Isaiah Yo. Like he's like even attacking.
he was the Tarek Sims of game too. So
Yeah, but even like Tarek Sims doesn't play
The
with
ball
the ball.
playing,
The ball playing that he's like an old school lock that can be a big 5'8" and play second receiver and you could just tell that the way that he gels with Cleary and Luai, it was just like a Penny Panthers game for him.
Yeah.
But you got Turbo and Latrell outside.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Teddy
Like,
running around as well.
Yeah, and Tedesco in the back. And so go back to your 2 points. Do I think Paul Green's the coach of the future? No, I think he's
only on a 1-year contract.
Yeah, I think he's an okay club coach. I just don't think he's no Wayne Bennett. And
I think
Wayne
the only person that is maybe Craig Bellamy.
Yeah, Wayne and Craig are in their own tier.
Yep.
But I don't even think he's probably in that tier 2. And I'd be really interested to see what Queensland kind of do coaching wise.
What do you see Wayne Bennett doing? Because there's a lot of talk that if Brisbane gets a nod for an expansion team, that he'll go up there.
Yeah, or I think he's trying to wind up with South as well. So maybe he just do Queensland until he retires. He's almost 1,000 years old. So he's got to eventually stop coaching at some
Shout
point.
out Methuselah, oldest man that ever lived.
So I don't know. And they're talking about the super coach trio of Billy Slater, JT, and Cameron Smith. Maybe because I think with Mal, it worked really well with Mal because I think it really works with Fittler as well. They've got that legend voice that the boys. Yeah, the aura. Bingo. That's exactly what I'm going for. And then they bring in all the really high quality assistants that put the right structures and
they can do the training and the coaching,
the tactics.
And Phil can do the weird shit and the team building stuff. That's what his role can be. Be that manager. I think that's
which I don't think Paul Green brings that aura. Like Wayne Bennett walks in the room, fucking Wayne Bennett is there. So same with Mal. So whether they want to do that and bring in the big 3 and see if that'll pull it off for them, I don't know.
Do you reckon they could still be as successful as they were in previous Origins with the team they've got now if Mal came in?
I think if they can get some of their young talent in, they've still got a really great forward pack, and they just got to hope some of these young boys come through sooner rather than later. But health's where it's at.
Well, I sent you an article earlier in the week, and it was kind of an optimistic sort of look at the future for Queenslanders. You're going to have a Reece Walsh. You're going to have a Sammy Walker. You've got
Ponga.
Ponga, yeah, when he gets healthy, you've got these good backs as well coming through. The problem is they're all 18 and 19.
Yeah.
So how are they going to stop a Turbo and a Latrell? And like the next 3 or 4 years, I think it's dire straits for Queensland.
But if it clicks, flip it around. Like we talk about how important the spine is. Say it's Grant, Walker, Walsh, Ponga. Say that is your spine.
They're all kids.
Yeah, but they're all they're very good players.
Of course,
top 3 or 4 players in their teams. Like at the moment,
very very talented. But they're not Tommy Turbo and James Tedesco and Latrell Mitchell.
Yeah, you've named one player in the spine, though. We talk about how important the spine is. They're only as good as the people.
Oh, what? Who else do you want? Nathan Cleary.
I know, right? Yeah, obviously right now it's a mismatch. But
the hands down best halfback in the league. And Jerome Luai, his partner in crime, who had a great 2 games. I seriously, maybe I've got my blue glasses on, but I think the next 3 years for Queensland is going to be a real struggle.
Watch them win all 3.
Yeah, honestly,
let's timestamp this shit.
Those
we can do a skull bet 3 years down the track, maybe triple skull for whoever. If each series there can be a skull.
Right, perhaps timestamp this one. What's the date? 1st of July.
1st of July, 2021.
That's going to be some on the Esky curse.
From what I've seen, like Queensland fans should be so thankful that they came out at 1 game 3 last year, because really, based on talent at the moment, New South Wales should have 4 on the trot and they should be gunning for 8 in a row.
It doesn't matter. New South Wales should always have better talent. I said it before.
But on paper, they didn't. In the 8 in a row era, it doesn't matter what your population is or how many footy clubs you got. When you've got Slater, when you've got Thurston,
at the start of that
when you've
era,
got Smith, when you got GI, it doesn't matter.
By the midpoint of that era, you knew who they were. At the start of that era, you had no idea who they were.
True.
So
They had to be the young guys once.
Yeah,
bingo.
Yeah, and it's the young guys now, and I'm worried for you guys. But we'll see. We'll see.
So the final point back to Munster, and he kind of got in a bit of trouble again for some late knees. I think there was not a huge amount in this, but I wanted to bring it up because I think it showed kind of his frustration with how it was going as well. Yep. I'm not sure.
You can hear him barking as well that he wasn't getting enough ball.
Yeah, and whether that better direction with Ben Hunt in it, and it kind of made more sense than with DCE. I'm always a little bit worried about how DCE fits into that kind of club. Got to remember, no Turbo. Manly sucked. With Turbo, they were good. DCA played all those games. So, yeah.
I found him very underwhelming.
Yeah.
In recent years, with Origin at the very least, like
he one line break is all he's contributed to State of Origin in 2 games.
Go, Nico.
Like, he's brought in to be.
Did you see that run?
Yeah. Well, there you go. He's a Queenslander.
New South Welshman.
Nico Hines. Well, so more trouble for you guys.
He's not. Well, he won't play for New South Wales because he's got 4 other fullbacks in front of him. So
that's all right. You can just play him in the centres just to see how that goes.
Well, that's what I meant. You've got 4 other fullbacks playing in the centres, so there's no position.
Just have a whole team of fullbacks. Put fucking Latrell and Tommy Turbo in the front row. They'll still go right.
I think
you go.
So to finish up that point on Munster, I think he was frustrated. As we can see, you can see that. Whether they give him more control, I think he's probably a little bit underdone as well. He's definitely underdone in that first game. Hasn't been playing a bunch played that 1 game in between it for Melbourne. Probably needs to get back to his best. And if he wants to keep the number 6 spot for Australia, he's going to have a pretty good run to the end of the year, because it sounds like Mal wants Luai to renege on the Samoa and come play for Australia.
All New South Wales, Australian backline then.
Yeah. Well, if he does it, he's the only one I think you'd pick in out of that.
And
7.
even the whole team, I've been thinking about this, and it's a lot in the sort of the footy zeitgeist at the moment is how many Queenslanders make that Australian team right now.
Yeah, I think Papali'i, Welsh,
maybe Welsh.
Welsh has leading the league in offloads, or he's just behind Pango Jr.
Oh, Pango Jr. is like 15 ahead, I think.
Yeah,
but
Welsh is pretty high up there, and he's 2.
I think he's second.
He adds some bit there, but again, Melbourne they need a good run at the end of the year for that to happen. Otherwise, Munster's probably the only one. They're the 3 that I'd pick.
It's nuts, isn't it?
Yeah,
nuts. Yeah, we've got a possible.
He's put Fafita in there.
Just
the form team of the month. Yeah, Fafita, like the way that he's been playing. I suppose the knock on for Fifita is a little bit hot and cold sometimes for Gold Coast. Some of these games, when he's
Big call for Queensland too.
when he's scoring the hat tricks, and coming off the bench as well was an interesting call. But
I would have thought he's an impact. He's meant to be an impact player coming off the bench, fresh against tired guys. He should be impactful.
Jai Arrow's a shout. Yeah, I'd be very surprised if there's more than 3 or 4 Queenslanders in the starting 17
Maybe a
at
few
the
on the
World
bench,
Cup.
like you say.
Yeah.
How old is that, Monks? Form team of the month then has got Ryan Pappenhausen in it.
From May.
2
So
months.
it's the last month. But other than
But
Papa's
to be fair, what do you-
been hurt. Yeah.
Campbell Gillard getting a shout.
Yeah, it did make Origin.
Yeah. Shows how good they're going.
All right. So a few Queensland legends had some really scathing words about the effort. And Cooper Cronk didn't hold any punches. He said that the Queensland players had let the jersey down on Sunday night. There needs to be some repercussions. Fatty got caught on the microphone, poor fella, saying they may as well call off the third.
They might have to. They can't find a venue, but we'll get to that in a minute.
We'll get to that in a second. How do Queensland approach this third game? Do they try and blood a few guys and get some Origin experience, or do they just sort of roll over, go with the same team that's conceded 76-6 and try to stop this sweep?
I think they have blooded a lot of like they've had 2 blood players purely
They've
just
got
with
hurt guys.
the injuries and
And that's
stuff.
something that we haven't really touched on. Is their Valentine Holmes is probably their 4th string fullback.
Yeah. Shouldn't be playing fullback.
And Harry Grant hasn't been available. Like you say, you think Munster might be
Munster
a little,
looks
a
cooked,
little
like
bit,
Got to give
little bit cooked.
McCulloch a shout for doing everything he can. He's
Defensively, he's a legend.
But
He
that's-
leads the league in tackles. He
that's
leads
his
the
job.
NRL in
Like,
tackles, but
he's no attacking
he's not
powerhouse.
a Harry Grant with the ball in hand.
No,
Coming from a Dragons fan.
or
So-
Reed Barney either. So yeah,
I don't know, and it probably goes back to what they want to do with Paul Green. Do they, if he gets another year, then
Well, it's funny that
do you build this little? You got to start building a core somewhere.
it's funny that you
pieces are there,
mentioned
so-
Reed Marnie. Paul Green allowing him to go play for Parramatta. Kicking him out of the camp essentially, and then he goes and gets hurt. I think that might have bit him in the bum as well because on form, Marnie had been.
but it's not Paul Green's fault that he goes plays for Power and gets injured. Like that's
No,
just-
it's not. But
That just
you-
It
sucks.
was his call to send him
But
home,
it's
though.
well, if he's not going to play for Queensland, it was just like, well, go get some game time.
But,
I-
did, but
how
being
did that
around
work
the
out?
being
Like-
around the camp, would that have helped him
yeah,
and
you
helped the
think so,
group?
yeah.
And then
that must have been Brad Arthur on the phone saying, "Can you send him?"
yeah,
back?"
which makes sense. And Parramatta fans are saying absolutely. I don't want him to not play midweek and then not play for us. So. Yeah, and again, he's not going to erase 50 points.
I'm not
in
defending
the
Paul
series,
Green. Like
but-
he maybe that some of that management needs to be put into question as well about how that stuff all goes.
Game 3, we did mention it. So there's been, as we alluded to last week, you've been living under a rock in Australia. If you aren't aware that the Coco is back, mostly
80% of the country's in lockdown.
Get your AstraZeneca, people.
mostly in Sydney. We shan't be commenting like the Prime Minister did on who should be receiving that.
or the Queensland Premier.
Oh,
That was messy.
Yeah, she had a very different tone about her on Monday than she did Sunday night when there was 50,000 people making money for her stay in fucking Suncorp. All right, so Newcastle is probably the most likely to get it.
I heard Amy Park today, but I don't think
Melbourne?
Victoria might not be overly happy with getting those guys down.
Why? Because they've just sent fucking the whole
Like,
AFL there.
yeah. I think it's
But they're
good-
I guess it does make a difference.
Yeah. Whether they're more worried because it's a lot more, say, Queenslanders and Brisbaneites and Sydney-siders.
Brisbanians.
Brisbanians?
Brisbanians, yeah, you can go with that.
That's such a stink kick from Nico Hines. He's missed that from next to the post.
This Munster's not kicking it.
Doesn't matter when you're up 18 zip and
It matters when you bet the over, Peps.
you need every single point.
All
Every
matter.
single point. Well, what about this one? It was getting thrown around game 1. Bloody Canberra, mate. We haven't had a case here for fucking since Adam and Eve, mate. Seriously.
Yeah. Well, I'll show up with masks and watch the game in Canberra Stadium, GO.
That's all right. I'll keep your face warm this time of the year anyway. Mm-hmm. All right.
I don't know. Don't know where they should.
I think it'll be Newcastle.
Yeah, I would back that as well.
And that'd be
but-
great. Nova Castrians, it's a, league town. It's unfortunate we're watching an empty stadium there at the moment, but a lot